What's up, recteq family? I'm Chef Greg, and today I'm going to show you how I prep my pork butts. When looking for that perfect pork butt, I tend to look for as close to a 10-pound pork butt as I can. You also want to make sure this is a bone-in pork butt. That bone will help insulate that cook and ensure that pork butt cooks super even. You also want to look on the opposite side of that bone. This muscle here is called the money muscle. The larger that muscle is, think of that as the filet mignon as the pork butt. That is the money-making muscle for all those barbecue competitions, and quite frankly, it's the most tender piece of that pork butt. Also, when we begin to prep our pork butt, we're going to remove almost all of that fat cap over the pork butt. The reason why we do that is when we apply our rub, most people scrape this off and throw it away. Well, I want that rub and bark to stick to that meat so it gets into all of those bits and pieces of that pork butt. Removing the fat cap can be a little bit of a chore, but if you follow a few easy steps, it can be super easy. First and foremost, I put my pork butt in the freezer for about 30 minutes prior to cutting. This is going to firm up that muscle, that fat's going to get super cold, and it's going to cut off a lot easier. You also want to make sure the knife you're using is the sharpest one in your drawer. Now don't think we're going to waste that pork fat. We're going to go ahead and put it in a Ziploc bag. We're going to label and date that. We're going to put that in the freezer, and we're going to save that for when we make sausage. All right, now that our pork butt's been nicely trimmed, let's go ahead and get it rubbed down with our binder. We're going to use some yellow mustard. I think we're gonna make this one a little bit spicy. We're gonna use that Ron's Screamin' Pig rub. And I'm not a huge fan of yellow mustard on sandwiches, but it does a great job as a binder. You're not gonna taste the yellow mustard. It's honestly gonna act like glue to make sure that rub stays in place, and it's gonna give us a really good bark. Like I said, we're gonna make this one a little on the spicy side. We're gonna use that Ron's Screamin' Pig rub. And if you're not a fan of the spice, go ahead and use that Rosarewski's Honey Rib rub. Stuff is fantastic. Or, if you're kind of a little unsure, feel free to go 50-50. All right, this pork butt is rubbed down. It's ready to cook. We've got the RT590 preheated to 225 degrees, burning the ultimate blend pellet. We're gonna cook this fat cap down, and this is gonna go to bed for at least 8 hours. We get a lot of questions out there asking how much meat it takes to cook for a large church function or a family gathering. The general rule of thumb is about 8 ounces of meat per person, and quite frankly, that's a little aggressive. You can scale that back a little bit if you have a couple meats, a couple sides, but generally speaking, about a half a pound per person is the norm. On the RT700, you can easily fit 6 pork butts on the bottom grates, and if you have the need to cook more with that large interior shelf, you can easily fit 3 more pork butts. That's 9 pork butts in this thing. 90 pounds of pork, that's crazy. On the RT590, you can easily fit 4 10-pound pork butts, and with 2 smaller interior shelves, you can easily fit 2 to 3 more. So right there, that's 70 pounds of pork. That's easily over 120 people. Now, if you want to be the king of the tailgate, you can fit 2 10-pound pork butts in the RT340 Trailblazer, and then you can fold it flat, throw it in the back of the pickup truck. A lot of times we get questions on folks asking, can you smoke on the bullseye? You can absolutely smoke on the bullseye. One thing I like to do is I'll put my pork butt or brisket on a wire rack. I'll elevate it over a foil pan, maybe with a beer on the bottom, and that way all the fat drips in that pan, not in the bottom of that grill. It'll easily fit 1 to 2 pork butts or like an 18 to 20 pound packer brisket on the RTB380 bullseye. This thing is awesome. Now these pork butts are gonna cook at 225 for about 8 hours. At that point, the internal of that pork should be right around 160 degrees and they should be looking fantastic. We're gonna monitor this cook with our Y-Pellet Wi-Fi controller. With those 2 standard platinum tip meat probes, I can monitor this cook literally from anywhere in the world at any time of the day. It doesn't get any easier. I'm gonna double wrap these in aluminum foil and we're gonna continue cooking until they reach right around 196, 198 degrees and are probing tender. Once our pork is probing tender, we're gonna let it rest on the counter for about 30 or 45 minutes. And since we already cut off that fat cap, we don't need to remove any of that fat. All of that bark, all of that delicious rub, all of that great smoked flavor will be incorporated into our pulled pork.